Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Hello, my friends, and welcome to today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about a way to decide what you're going to do when you don't have all the answers. And the reason this topic comes up for so many of us is we tend to be people who love certainty. We love a path. We love a trajectory. We love an algorithm. And there are many, many reasons why this is true, especially when you think back to the path that people take to get into medicine, right? If we wanted to be a physician, right? If you were a child who eagerly told everyone that you wanted to be a doctor when you were little, eventually, you figured out or were told, perhaps over and over again, well, that means that you're going to need to work hard in high school and go to a good college, and then you'll need to apply to medical school, and then you'll need to select a specialty and get into a good residency, on and on. There's comfort in having this type of plan, right? If you were a child who struggled with anxiety, or a child who grew up in a household that needed to guarantee certainty, and the way that they chose to do that was to present you with a few options that had very clear pathways for your career, then you learned at a young age that when there is a clear answer, when there is a clear path, and you just need to follow the steps, there is comfort in knowing that this will work, right? It is a tried and true trajectory. And yes, there are times when you might be weeded out. There are times when you might face a setback. Perhaps you failed organic chemistry, for example. There are many, many challenges along the way, but in general, most of us could see that there was this path that we could continue on, right? And at the end of the path, we would reach Shangri-La, right? We would reach our destination. We would have arrived, and we would be happy. We would be financially secure. We would know all the answers. We would never struggle with uncertainty, right? We would always be employable and fulfilled. That was the dream for so many of us, and again, for so many of our families. And the reason that I want to talk about this today is that a common area of struggle that I know that I have faced, and I know that many of the physicians that I talk to have faced as well, is trying to figure out what to do when we need to make a decision of some kind and we don't have the answers. And for the sake of argument here, I'm not going to be talking about a patient-related issue. We aren't thinking about the sort of inherent certainty that can come with, illnesses or, uncertainty if our patient's going to follow the plan. We'll leave that off the table for today. But I'm thinking more often about those of us who have struggled to make really big decisions, sometimes even small decisions, because we are used to having a path and knowing that our decisions along the way were very straightforward in getting us along the path, right? If I had the option to study and get a good grade and be able to pass my test and, get into a good college, then I didn't have to make a decision about whether to study or to blow it off and, go out with my friends, right? There were many instances along the way. And yes, again, we may have made mistakes. We may have had shakeups in that path, but generally, we sort of understood what was being expected. But you may find yourself after leaving residency in your attending career, faced with different decisions about your career, about where you're going to live, about what opportunities are coming your way. And oftentimes I find people get very stuck because they are in a situation where there seems to be no clear answer. We have believed that there was always a path for us, right? And that we would, graduate from residency again, and we would, become these doctors, and we would, either get a job or, become a professor in an academic medical setting. We might start our own practice, any number of things. But I think for many of us, we still had this idea that the decisions would be very clear cut. It would be very obvious which direction to take. And many of us find that that's actually not the case. You might be thinking about leaving your current position. And it may be that you have really, really wanted to be at the institution, at the clinic, within the system that you are in, that it was a dream of yours, that it was a right fit for you. And yet you have reasons that you want to leave. And those reasons may be professional, they may be personal, they could have to do with not wanting to leave your patients. There's a lot of things that can come up. But struggling with that decision of, do I leave or not leave? And really feeling stuck because there is no one right, clear answer, right? When we are stepping out of a place, especially a place that we have wanted to be, a place that, on paper has looked very good for us, but a place that isn't a good fit for us, or, there's someplace else that we want to be, it can be very, very difficult to make that decision. Similarly, people get offered new jobs, whether or not they applied for them. They might have new opportunities to come and speak, to get involved with this committee or this project. And again, these things can be really unclear. If we are used to perfectionism and people pleasing, and we think there's one right path to succeed in our careers, we might say yes to every opportunity that comes to us until we find ourselves drowning in overwhelm, feeling like we have too much to do. We don't have enough time to do anything for ourselves. We're always failing, in all the arenas that we work. We're never enough, for our patients. We're never enough for our families. We're not exercising. We're not taking good care of our bodies. You know the drill. Getting stuck in waiting or wanting for there to be a right answer is just unfortunately really common. And I've been there myself, thinking I have this opportunity to take this job, to move in this direction, to, decide if that is good for me. And at some point, we really have to be embracing, what do I want for my career? What do I want for my life? Even if we realize that that's not fitting in with the picture of what we imagined our life would be when we were kids, when we were, young residents running around the hospital, daydreaming about what it would be like to be an attending. Our lives change, our priorities change. We may decide that we don't really belong in the places that we are, that we don't want to continue to try and fit into the cultures that we are in. But again, we may really, really struggle with the decision because we want a right answer, because we perhaps don't have all of the information about what it is that we really want. And so often we stay stuck. So I want to invite you to imagine a new way of thinking about it when you're facing a big decision. There are many times when we don't have clear answers about what it would be like to work in a different place, to be in a different health system, to step out of clinical medicine, to take a consultant position, to take a leadership position, any number of situations that come up. And we can have some ideas, we can have some worries that we don't have all of the information that we need. And again, we can get really stuck in that anxiety. But what if we step back? What if we acknowledge that we don't have a clear path, that we don't have a clear one right answer? There is more than one situation that could work for us. But we instead think of an overall direction that we would like our life or our careers to be moving in. And this brings in the analogy of the lighthouse. So if we imagine that we are sailing through rough waters during a part of our career, and we come across a time when we need to make a decision about what direction to go, but again, we don't have all the answers. What we do have in our boat is our skills, we have our experiences, we have with us the things that we do know, which we often discount. But the ocean is wide, right? And again, we're struggling with a lack of some piece of information that seems really important. Will I be pregnant by then? Will I get the grant that I'm trying for? Will I be in a long-term relationship? Will my parents be okay? Will the cancer be gone? Will that boss be gone? Any number of other situations, right, where that uncertainty becomes really important. Instead of wanting and searching for a clear path, instead, let's think of looking for the lighthouse. And the lighthouse in this analogy is the general direction, the general outcome that you want for your career. You don't have to know when you are looking for the lighthouse exactly the path to get there, right? You don't know what the water is going to be like between where you are and where the coast is. But if you know where the lighthouse is, if you know where the general direction is that you want to take your life and your career, you can start to ask yourself questions and figure out how they help you to line up with your ultimate path. If your goal is ultimately to become a consultant, to be considered an expert in, a portion of medicine, in something to do with academics or teaching, then making decisions that help you to move along that path, even if there's twists and turns along the way, can help you to figure out how to stay aligned with what's important to you. It also helps you to say no to opportunities that don't really align with that. Unless you magically find yourself with oodles and oodles of time and know that you want to explore something completely off the path. And if that's you, go for it. But for so many of us who have finite time, finite attention spans, right? We get offered many opportunities along the way, and we really need to focus. Is this opportunity? Is this new job? Is this offer to join a committee? Are these things going to help me with ultimately where I want to go? Do they connect me with a new network? Do they teach me new skills? Does it help me to establish myself as an expert in this area? When we start to use this analogy, we no longer rely on what others think or the pathway that our mentors took or any other external thing. We really start to identify ourselves. What is our lighthouse? If I work in an academic medical institution, for example, where the rise to professorship is what everyone is going for. And yet, I find that for me, that's not really where my heart lies, right? Then I can't always turn to the mentors and the people around me for guidance, right? Because their pathway, what they think is important for them, is not the same as what I'm looking for. But I can figure out what that lighthouse is. I can figure out what I'm interested in doing. And again, I can start to align my decisions, my values, how I spend my time in the direction that takes me towards the lighthouse. I find this analogy very helpful when I'm thinking in my own life about the big picture. Again, when I'm considering opportunities that are being offered to me. And it really helps me to take the angle of flattery out of it. I think for many of us who have perfectionist and people-pleasing tendencies, we may often stop and feel flattered by being offered a new opportunity. And we may say yes without even thinking about whether it aligns with our values. I see this happen many times, often with unpaid work on committees and any number of other things that we get asked to do. But again, if I'm being offered things that will take my time and energy, and they don't align with that ultimate position, that ultimate place that I'm wanting my career to go, I can much more easily say no. Thank you for thinking of me. I can still feel flattered. I can still feel honored for being asked. And I can say no with confidence and with gratitude, right? Which is a much different feeling than saying yes when you don't want to, when you don't have time for it, when you think, I don't know how I'm going to fit this in amongst everything else. So I invite you to think about how this might come up for you in your life. How might you use this vision of the lighthouse? What is your lighthouse? What calls to you when you think about the big picture of your life and your career? And how can you start to line up your priorities, your time management, your opportunities, so that they're taking you in the general direction that you want to go, even if there doesn't seem to be one right answer, one clear path, even if you don't have all the information, you don't have the weather report, right? How can you make the best decision with what you know right now to move in the direction of your lighthouse? I hope that this is helpful for you, and I hope that you'll spend some time playing around with this exercise. Have a great rest of your day. Please reach out and leave me some comments if you'd like to hear more about this or about anything else. Again, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.